American Woman has one banger of a title track, but there is so much more to this album than that, and we're about to explore what that is. Join us for Weekend Spin. Hey everybody, this is TJR. If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. If not, welcome back. And welcome also to Weekend Spin. This Weekend Spin is going to be American Woman by the Guess Who. Released in 1970, it is the sixth studio album by the band, and it is best known for both its title track, American Woman, and the song No Sugar Tonight. The lineup on this release would be Burton Cummings on lead vocals, rhythm guitar, keyboards, flute, and harmonica, Randy Bachman on lead and rhythm guitar and backing vocals, Jim Cale on bass, backing vocals, and Gary Peterson on drums and backing vocals. The album was produced by Jack Richardson. This would also be the last album to feature Randy Bachman until he returned to the fold in 1983. I describe the album American Woman as a cross-pollination between heavy blues rock and psychedelic rock. This album was introduced to me back in the early 80s by a woman that I was dating at the time. She wanted me to hear her sing and give my opinion, so she played the album and sang along with it. It was the first time that I had heard any songs off this album other than its title track, and to this day it's remained a favorite. While the album's title track, American Woman, is a classic rock staple, I still think it's a very underrated album that doesn't get much attention these days when we talk about the classic rock era. So sit back and let's talk about the tracks. Side 1, track 1, opens with the title track, American Woman.
American woman, stay away from me.
Now, however, though, as I said earlier, I had never heard any of this album until that day. All I'd ever heard was the title track on the radio, and this is where I discovered that the radio version and the album version are two different things. American Woman on the album opens with a 1 minute and 15-second acoustic blues intro.
American woman, gonna mess your mind. American.
Then, of course, it launches into its more familiar dun dun da 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 dun dun da 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 guitar riff that everyone knows it for. This acoustic blues intro was, of course, cut out of the radio single version. And again, until I heard it that day, I was unfamiliar with it. So you can imagine how surprised I was to hear this for the first time. This title track is, of course, a solid rock classic that has stood the test of time. It is also incredibly easy to play on guitar since it's primarily the same riff over and over again with just a few slight variations thrown in. The main riff to American Woman is very simple. It's a simple walk from a B note to a D note, and then I like to play it in the key of E so I can use the low bass string. Some people play it in C, it doesn't really matter. So you just have a simple walk. And you're just going back and forth between a D chord and an E chord, like that. And I can't help but notice the similarities between this particular riff and the riff to Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin, which uses also a walk from a B note to a D note and then landing on an E. It's a bit more simplified, but it's kind of the same. By the way, I'm not implying that Jimmy Page stole that from the Guess Who. These are basic guitar riffs that are used in countless songs. So these are just building blocks. I'm not implying that at all. But I always like to note the similarities between different songs, how they'll use similar riffs, how we'll hear things, and then modify it slightly to create something new. But everything about it works, from its propulsive rhythm guitar line to its slightly off-kilter guitar solo and Burton Cummings' very impassioned aggressive vocals. This brings us to track 2, entitled No Time.
On my way to better things.
Now, No Time is a song that the band originally recorded on a previous album entitled Canned Wheat, before re-recording it for this album, where it became a hit single. And yes, the Guess Who really did have an album entitled Canned Wheat. I have no idea if this was any type of deliberate reference or making fun of or a friendly jab at the band Canned Heat. If anybody knows, please let us know in the comments. Guitarist Randy Bachman described this track as their country rock song, and as an attempt by him and Burton Cummings to sound more like Stephen Stills and Neil Young. Having found out that there was a previous version, I couldn't help but make a comparison between the two. Aside from the rather abstract instrumental open that the original version has, the Canned Wheat album version sounds very similar to its American Woman version. It's a little bit slower, and it runs a few minutes longer, and the guitar solo during the instrumental section is a bit different, but still features a lot of the same musical themes as the American Woman version. And unlike the American Woman version, there is no fade out. It just ends with a cool bit of guitar feedback. I really did enjoy hearing this original version, but by comparison, I think the band retooled this in a good way. They turned it into a much leaner and meaner track. Sometimes a band remaking their own song can be kind of iffy, but here we went from here to here, and it's all good. Next is track 3, entitled Talisman.
My heart.
Talisman is one of those mystical 60s era songs that has you thinking, I'm not sure what those lyrics mean, but damn, they sure do sound profound. Honestly, I love the stark, beautiful, quasi-classical acoustic guitar playing on this particular song. And yes, the spoken word poem does sound a bit dated and corny now.
Let me live only to do, and let me do only to live.
But if I just let go of my pretentiousness, I can still enjoy the mystical journey that this song wants to take me on. The arrangement for the track is just acoustic guitar and vocals, both of which are performed with exquisite and expressive passion, until it closes out with a wonderfully evocative quasi-classical piano solo. There's no info in the liner notes about who is playing the piano on this, so I'm going to assume it's Burton Cummings on keys and Randy Bachman on acoustic guitar. But if you have any info about this, please let me know. Track 4 is actually 2 songs in one: No Sugar Tonight and New Mother Nature. Now, this was one of the songs that my girlfriend that I mentioned a moment ago at the time sang for me when she introduced me to the album. This is one of those medley songs where the band has 2 songs that work better together than apart, so they join them together. The Beatles have in the past used this particular tactic to great effect. The story behind this song, though, is rather funny. Randy Bachman was walking down a street with a stack of records under his arm when he saw 3 very tough-looking biker guys walking towards him. He felt a little bit nervous by their appearance when suddenly a little car pulled up, probably a VW Bug, right next to the 3 biker guys. A small woman about roughly 5 feet tall got out of the car and started yelling at one of the biker dudes about where has he been all day, and how he had left her alone to take care of the kids, and how he didn't take out the trash. Now, the other 2 guys, they made tracks. They just went the other way and disappeared. While the one biker that was being admonished got in the car with her. As she pulled away, Bachman overheard her yelling to him, "And another thing, you ain't getting no sugar tonight." This song is a solid heavy rocker, and it closes out side 1. This is an amazing side 1, but there is still plenty more to enjoy with side 2. So let's get into it. Side 2 opens with 969, The Oldest Man. This is a rock blues instrumental that is perhaps the least psychedelic sounding song on what is mostly a fairly psychedelic sounding album. What really surprises me about this track is how it suddenly does this 360-degree genre shift turn and transforms into this very cool jazz midsection complete with a flute solo. Honestly, I just love this musical surprise that they pull on this track. Also, I should just say, I just love how bands from that era would just do things like that, just to be different. And honestly, we just don't hear enough of it these days. Next is track 6, entitled When Friends Fall Out. When Friends Fall Out opens with an acoustic guitar, but very quickly transforms into a very gritty garage rock number that nowadays we would consider to be grunge. But when the song reaches its bridge, it transforms into this very cosmopolitan sound before returning back to its very grunge sounding roots. And again, I just can't emphasize the ease at which the band manages to shift back and forth between these musical genres within the same song. They make it feel completely natural. And just when you think this song is about to end on some kind of big, heavy rock bang, it shifts back into that whole cosmopolitan sound we had earlier, and then it ends on a tension chord with absolutely no resolution. Aside from the bridge, and aside from the song's closing, this song feels kind of ahead of its time, like something that could have been recorded in the 90s. Again, it is this very cool garage band, grungy sounding track, but the fact that it can shift the way it does at the bridge and at the ending is just more icing on the cake. Next is track 7, entitled 815. I really like how this song and how a lot of songs from this era take their time with the opening, laying down different musical themes before we hear a line of lyric. This track opens with a very heavy Hendrix-style blues guitar riff that then launches us into the song's main rhythm. This plays for a few measures, and then there is this cool melodic guitar riff, a lead guitar riff, that plays over that rhythm. And this plays twice through so that when it returns on the chorus, we remember it, and it makes the chorus stronger. This song is very CSN sounding, in my opinion, but with a more aggressive guitar attack. And just like Talisman, I have no idea what the lyrics mean, but they sure do sound profound. This takes us to track 8, entitled Proper Stranger. I'm the proper stranger. I'm the proper stranger. This is a very cool upbeat rocker. The song's title fits well, as there is a very dark and mysterious quality to the music. I also think this song is a masterclass on effective guitar arrangements. Most of the guitars used on this track are either acoustic or clean electric guitar. And as you're listening, you might think that, maybe they should have gone with a heavier guitar tone for this one. That isn't until, of course, the second verse hits, and then we get this distorted electric guitar power chord that just cuts through everything. And then you say to yourself, I see. It was wise to go clean until this moment, because now it has so much more impact to the rest of the song. American Woman closes with the track Humpty's Blues. On this particular number, the band gets down and dirty with a traditional blues number. The strongest aspect of this track is Burton Cummings' very powerful vocals. There's also the excellent harmonica playing, which I will also guess is Burton Cummings as well. Randy Bachman also delivers a very effective guitar solo on this one. As this song comes to a close, we return back to the blues acoustic version of American Woman.
American woman, gonna mess your mind. American woman.
Even though this album was released in 1970, it is still very much a product of the late 1960s. But it does flirt with some of the harder blues-based rock that would start to take center stage as the decade known as the 1970s would progress. And I really do think that this album does not get the attention it deserves when we discuss classic albums from the 1960s and 1970s. I have owned this album for decades on CD, but recently I did manage to pick up a vintage vinyl copy at a local used record store that sounded really great. There is also an expanded deluxe 2 CD edition, which oddly enough I have yet to get. I think that that is one mistake that I should be rectifying soon. In a few moments, I will reveal the title of next week's album. But first, I just want to tell you that if you like these videos, please click like. This does so much for the channel. Also, I welcome you to hit subscribe and to click the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. A big thank you to my patron supporters. Patron supporters do receive exclusive weekly videos not available on this channel. If you'd like to be a patron supporter, go to patreon.com/TJR, the original, and make a monthly pledge. Next time on Weekend Spin, we're going to go to 1985 and take a look at the debut album by The Power Station, a supergroup that featured 2 members of Duran Duran and Robert Palmer on lead vocals, for a combination of dance and rock music that nobody saw coming. This is TJR. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about this episode in the comments, and I hope you all stay safe and healthy. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.